So Alien Earth has been out for a little minute now. We've gotten 6 episodes, episode 5 being my favorite. And so far, I have loved every single minute of this series. It is slow, contemplative. There are so many different characters, each with their own motivations and depth, that once this series is over, I'm going to want to talk about it. And so I figured in the meantime, why not go through the rest of the Alien movies, right? I've only seen the first two. And so, if I can really lock in, maybe I'll watch the rest of them before then. But I don't know, we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah, I just want to talk about this first Alien movie. And I want to say shout out to Ridley Scott. He is one of my favorite directors. And what I love most about him is I feel like he's so good at building and maintaining an atmosphere and tone that stays throughout the whole movie, right? Everything that he did in this is very much like the blueprint of the Alien series, and the Alien Earth and the Alien Earth show really builds on that, right? Like you see it at the very beginning of this movie whenever we get the title crawl, and it feels like it lasts about 5 minutes, but it's just that of the text popping up as there's this low humming that feels like it penetrates your body as you just stare into the emptiness of space. And it creates this really eerie tone that makes you feel like things are not going to end well, which, I mean, it's an old movie. At this point, you already know, right? But that tone really does stay throughout the whole movie, especially when we first get onto the ship as everyone is in cryo sleep and the ship feels cold, empty, and abandoned. Something interrupts the transmission, and the way this machine sounds is scary. It feels like it would be some sounds that some sort of like monster would make, is the best way I can explain it, right? But after that, we are introduced to the crew of the ship, and there is 6 of them, right? I say at this point, the tone does lift up a little bit, but because of the environment, there is still a kind of coldness and emptiness to it that I think is very representative of the kind of situation that they're in. Like all of them seem like they're obviously not in good situations. And so they decided to take this job to move themselves forward for the future, right? But what I love most about this movie, right? We want to talk about these characters. You have the shift lead, who's a dickhead. You have the coworker who's a know-it-all. You have the coworker who quite literally lives for the company. You have the coworker that is always complaining. You have the coworker that's always talking about when are we getting paid. You have the lackey. You have the coworker that is lackey to the coworker that's always asking when are we going to get paid. And then there's you. You are the one sane, normal person, the most thought out person. And you now have to deal with a monster that is attacking y'all and is way above your pay grade. That is like the average experience of your everyday blue collar worker. So when this crew wakes up, right, their moment of joy of just being able to interact and talk with each other is shortly interrupted as they receive a transmission to go to a different planet because there was a signal picked up, and their contract says if they detect anything that hints at life, they have to go look at it. Of course, they do that because if not, they're not getting paid. So they do that. And in doing so, they find a crashed ship with a dead alien on there and what looks like to be eggs. Of course, the know-it-all, he decides to go take a look at these eggs, gets attacked, and gets a face hugger attached to his face, right? We at this point, we all know how it goes. Even if you've never seen the Alien movies, you understand how the xenomorph works. Face hugger attaches itself to him. It impregnates him against his will, which that's another thing that I've heard a lot of people talk about, is that one of the themes of this movie is that this movie really puts men in the place of women when it comes to violence and assault. I don't know how much I can really speak on that, seeing as I've never been a woman, and this observation has come from other men. I feel like that's something that it would just be better suited for a woman to talk about, but I do see what they're talking about. So anyways, this thing, it impregnates the dude. He eventually wakes up. It bursts out of his chest. And now you have the monster movie, right? I think what I love most about the Xenomorph is that there is something about it that just seems kind of cosmic to me. Like, it starts off as this small little thing that can't be but like 10 pounds, and then it eventually turns into a 7-foot monster that just starts tearing people apart. And I think it can be very representative of just fear of the unknown, right? As well as representative of the dangers that a company is willing to put its workers in front of simply for profit or to just see what happens. And of course, Ripley, the character that I said is the most sane on the ship, the most well thought out. This is really about her just trying to survive and get off the ship despite what seems like a hopeless scenario. All in all, I'd say it's a great movie. I'd give it an 8.5. I think the only thing that I could knock this movie on is that the suit seems like it probably couldn't hold up very well. It seemed kind of stiff. You don't get a lot of really good shots looking at it, but this movie was made in the 70s, I think. I think it was 79. So, a little older. But despite that, all of the acting is great. Like I said, I think the themes are great. The tone, the setting is great. As well as just the overall design of everything. The design of the Xenomorph is amazing. The design of the ship, even though this was made in 79, this form of retrofuturism still looks futuristic. It still looks interesting, despite the fact that this is just a company vessel that was slapped together only to serve the purpose of doing the job. Yet, despite that, it has so much personality, like everyone in the crew. And so, if you haven't seen any of the Alien movies, if you haven't watched Alien Earth, I would recommend starting with this. Just watch this, and then you could go into Alien Earth. I think it's well worth it.